Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is for entertainment purpose only. This is the case of the Idaho quadruple murders. May the victims rest in peace and condolence to their families. I found this clip from ITV News. That is a leading news channel in the United Kingdom. And I found it very interesting because the reporter says that he spoke to one of Brian Koberger's neighbors, and they said that he was often seen outside with a female friend, a woman an Asian woman. I wonder if that is what he's going to use as his alibi. Or if that is the truth, actually.
A special report on the brutal murders of 4 students at the University of Idaho. And this is a really shocking case that is gripping the United States. Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Zana Knodel and Ethan Chapin were found stabbed to death in a student apartment in November. There is no apparent motive and many unanswered questions about exactly what happened. The suspect is Brian Koberger, a PhD criminology student who denies any involvement in the murders. Now, he appeared in court today when more details emerged about the victims and the circumstances surrounding the crime. But as the campus reopens after the Christmas break and students mourn the victims, much of it still remains a real mystery, as our US correspondent Dan Rivers now reports.
It is a case which has captivated and horrified the United States, a nation trying to fathom whether this man, Brian Koberger, stabbed to death 4 students as they slept at a university in Idaho. Many left with one simple question: why? The victims, Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin and Zana Knodel, were in their student house in the small town of Moscow when they were violently attacked just after 4 a.m. on the 13th of November. Social media videos portray a bubbly group of girls enjoying student life in the house where they were later killed. Among those returning to the campus this week, Ethan Chapin's siblings. The family released this childhood photo of the triplets, 2 of whom are now mourning their murdered brother. The killings have touched everyone here.
It was just scary. I've never had something like that happen so close to me, and I think that it just really affected the community. And yeah, it doesn't seem real. It just, like, you hear about this stuff on TV and you see it on, like, crime shows and stuff, and it's just, like, when it's so close, it's crazy.
It was very shocking to hear something like this happening because you always feel so safe on campus and you feel like, you can go do anything at night and it's not anything you have to worry about. So it definitely was an adjustment to hear that something like this had happened.
The precise sequence of events that November night is still shrouded in mystery. Why it took so long for the other housemates to call the police isn't clear, and neither is the motive for the stabbing of 4 young students who apparently had no known connection with Brian Koberger. It took the 2 female survivors 6 hours to call the police. Law professor Samuel Newton says they might have been paralysed with fear.
It's very easy to go back and second guess and say, this was a homicide, there were 4 people killed, you should have been calling right then. And I think it's a mistake to jump in and begin shaming somebody for not calling the police and I'm sure this person is very traumatized at the moment after having gone through all of that.
2 of the victims, Ethan Chapin and Zana Knodel, had spent the evening before the killings at a nearby fraternity house. The other 2 victims, Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan, were at this bar, later seen at a food truck, arriving home at 2 a.m. Court documents show the 2 surviving female housemates thought they heard Kaylee playing with her dog, a pet which featured prominently in her videos. This camera near the house recorded sounds of a disturbance. Court documents say voices or a whimper were heard, followed by a loud thud at 4:17 a.m. One of the survivors even caught a glimpse of a man in the house, noting his bushy eyebrows and tall athletic build as he walked past her to this back door. Police initially hunted for a white Hyundai, spotted fleeing the murder scene at high speed. They finally found an identical car here, belonging to postgraduate student Brian Koberger. I spoke to one of Koberger's neighbours here at his university accommodation in Pullman. He didn't want to go on camera, but said he frequently saw Koberger in the company of an Asian girl, often laughing and joking. On the night of the murder, he saw him right out here, acting normally. Analysis of mobile mast data showed Koberger's phone was turned off around the time of the killings. It also showed he'd driven past the house late at night repeatedly. A car matching Koberger's was spotted 4 times, loitering around the murder scene for 51 minutes before heading off at high speed. It was then picked up on these back roads, again by cameras, heading towards Pullman, where he lived. Just over a month after the murders, Koberger and his father were briefly stopped by traffic police in Indiana while driving 2,500 miles across America.
I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where?
They were unaware the FBI was closing in, going through rubbish at the family home in Pennsylvania, looking for DNA samples to match cells found on a knife sheath like this left at the murder scene. Finally, the police swooped, sure they had enough proof. This is Koberger's father cleaning up smashed glass after the dramatic raid to arrest his son. For the students working on the university newspaper, this has been a challenging 2 months.
A lot of people are ready to just kind of be able to grieve in private, especially now that it's less of a crime story. They've apprehended a suspect. They've taken it into formal trial. It gives them, and it gives students some more space regarding just kind of processing this.
Shannon Gray is a lawyer representing Kaylee Gonsalvez's parents.
Christy kind of can go down a rabbit hole and start thinking about the night in question and how the things when different information comes out. Steve's trying to be the rock for her, and then when Steve goes down, Christy becomes the rock. So, you know, they're playing off of each other. They're a strong family, and they'll get through this. So,
In terms of sentence, what are they seeking?
They're seeking the death penalty.
It may be many more months before the trial, and still 2 central elements are missing: the murder weapon and the motive, both compounding the mystery of why these 4 young lives were taken with such violence by a suspect none of them knew.